Today we're going to be going over some techniques to convert your image into a vector that can be a laser cut vector file. We're going to learn a couple of interesting techniques on how to use the image trace more effectively and how to convert the image ahead of time to get strokes that are not impossible to cut. So let's get started. First thing I want to do is go to New File, and we'll be using a 7.5 by 7.5 inch canvas today, and we'll just hit OK. And I'm going to reset my Windows Workspace, Reset Essentials Classic. So you should be in Essentials Classic. I'm going to Command R so we can see the ruler, and you can see that it is 7.5 inches by 7.5 inches. I'm going to go to my artboard, and for this tutorial I'm going to show you four different ways of approaching this. So I'm going to copy this and paste. So if I zoom out, Command minus, you'll see I have 4 artboards to start with. Okay, so what I will be doing today is going over some techniques on how to get images turned into just outlines that you can cut without any problems on the laser cutter. So let's go ahead and start by placing an image into this workspace. So I'm going to go to Place, File, Place, and I'm going to select an image. Let's start with, so I have an image of myself here, and I'm just going to go ahead and place it in this area, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. I'm holding the Shift key down so that I don't skew everything, and once I'm happy with it, I'll go ahead and just let go. And what we're going to do before we image trace this, step 1 is we're going to resample this image so it has a lower resolution. This will be almost impossible to get rid of, and so my hope is by sampling it, by going to Object, Rasterize, and then changing our resolution here from, it's by default high, 300. We're going to use other, and we're just going to type 20. This lowers the resolution, as you'll see in a second, and makes it a little bit more blurry, which is kind of what we want. Now, I'm going to be using this image multiple times, so I'm going to Option drag it, just so you can see some differences here with the technique that we're going to be going over, and you could choose which of these 3 techniques you want to use. So to start with, we're going to go and select our image using our selection. We're selecting it. If you don't see the image trace up here, you should. You can always go to the window and select image trace right here. Anyway, if you see it, you're going to select it by clicking on it, and by default you'll see this. Now then, if you don't have this window open at this point, you can just click on this little panels button and it will pop this open, and you know that already. We're going to convert this from black and white. We're going to use a preset of color, and that's going to change all the sliders and make everything colorful and whatever. We're going to view our results with outlines, and you can see that this is almost going to be impossible to work with. The laser cutter will cut all these thousands of different lines. So one thing that we can do is lower the number of paths, and you can see everything, it simplifies a bit, but it starts to really destroy the image itself. So maybe you don't want to do that. You can try to lower the number of colors, but you can see in this case it just, again, doesn't get rid of the detail here, which is really what we want. By lowering the number of corners, it makes things rounder so that they're easier to cut, but again, very small. The important thing whatever you decide to do here, obviously the more colors, the more paths you're going to get, right? But once you've got everything dialed in the way you want, so I'm going to do 3 colors, lower my paths, lower my corners. The important thing is putting the method on overlapping. This is important because we don't want the same line being cut 2 times, and that's what's going to happen if we use this method. What we'll want is overlapping, and you'll notice that when you do that right away, if you have tracing results on with outlines, you'll notice double outlines here. That's fine because we're going to get rid of that in the next step. Once you've got this set up like this, what you're going to do is expand it by clicking the expand button here or over here. We're going to expand it, and that in essence does the job for the image trace, and we are at the point where we can now start to fix this a little bit. You can see that we have double lines here for the same color. To get rid of that, you can either go to the Pathfinder tool here and use these three little buttons to open it up. And what we're looking for is the merge button. If you don't see the Pathfinder, it might be because you don't have anything selected. Command 0 here. So maybe you don't have anything selected, so obviously it's not there. So select your object here. Another way of finding Pathfinder is to go to the Windows and go to Pathfinder. And I'm going to just leave that open here because that's the merge button. You'll notice that when I click this merge button and I have the entire object selected, you'll notice that those lines go away because everything that's the same color will be merged into a single object, and this object now becomes that thing. At this point, we want to turn this into a stroke so that we can work with it. And the way we do that is you select it, and then finally you hit this outline button. Now that outline button shows you exactly what the laser cutter will cut. So this is the cut that will happen with the laser cutter, and you can see there's a lot of problems here. Before we move on, I want you to notice the properties here. Notice the stroke has a bunch of question marks, and that's because the stroke has so many different colors that it doesn't know which one to pick. So click on the little question mark button here for the stroke, and we're going to select black, and also we're going to change our stroke to 1 point. And now you can see all the little things that the laser cutter will cut, and you can see that this will be a serious problem. So this is not something that you would send off to get laser cut. You're going to have to figure out how to simplify this, and that's what we're going to do next. I just wanted to show you that a raw photograph is going to give you some real problems. Now if you wanted to hand fix this, obviously it's selected, so you can now go to the shape builder tool, which is right here. And the shape builder will allow you to just do its thing and move across these different shapes, and it'll merge them into various things. You can kind of see you're trying to get rid of all the little things, or at least connect everything together to be one thing. So you can kind of see that maybe I don't need this thing, so I just drag across it. Maybe all these can be one specific shape, so again I just drag across, and you can see that turns everything into a single shape like that. Now this is all grouped together, so you can kind of see that. So if I want to, I'm going to go back to my selection tool here. If I want to select individual items, I can double click into it, and you'll notice you jump into that group, and at this point you can now select individual objects like these little things. That means that if you can select them, you can also delete them. So if you want to delete large groups of things, you can just double click, get into it, and now you can select several things and try to delete them individually. So sometimes it's just too much to shape build all this stuff, and you want to just delete it. Be careful when you're deleting, because you might delete something that you didn't want to delete, like that, and you'll see that that's actually connected to the entire part of your image. So make sure you always zoom out, make sure you haven't messed everything up. So like some of this stuff, if I delete it, you see I'm deleting a lot of different things. So some of these need to be shape builded. Now, to get out of the group, you just hit that arrow and go back out, and now you've got this. So again, this is not good for laser cutting. So let's take a look at maybe ways that we can fix that. So we're going to go to our next image. You can see it's already been sampled. So the first thing we do, obviously, is make sure we rasterize at 20. And this is already done. You can see we duplicated it. The next thing you can do is go to Effects and then select Effects Gallery. I'm going to Command plus to zoom it in a little bit. And you'll notice that when you do that, you can now start using some of these, this cutout. Now, if things are too blurry here, it's because you sampled it, and maybe you want to go back and change the resolution of the image you brought in to maybe 40 so you get more. But you can see much more simplified, right? I can change my edge simplicity to make it even more simple, and I'm going to hit OK. At this point, this is ready for image tracing. But before we do that, we're going to go to Object, Rasterize, and we're going to select 20, and we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Because we had just converted it with a filter, it didn't actually physically change the object for image tracing. Now we can go to the image trace window, right? And then open it up using that panel if it was closed, like I had it closed. And then we're going to go to presets 3 color, and you'll see right away that this has many less lines than before, right? So that's one possibility for us to do. So, and then I go to, I can maybe make it 4 colors or 5 colors, and you'll see the lines are much more easily dealt with. I can change my paths to make it more smooth, change the corners to make it rounder, change the noise to either increase it or decrease it, depending on what I have. But again, the cutout was so simplistic, and it actually fixed everything for us. Remember, the method must be overlapping, and then we're going to go ahead and expand it with our expand button. So step 1 after we expand it is to merge all the single colors together. Step 2 is to create outlines. Step 3 is to go to our strokes and click on the black and make sure that our stroke setting is set to something like 1, so that we can see all the merging that we need to do. And then finally, you'll use your shape builder to get rid of small little areas like this. So you can, but being careful, like just to get rid of things like this. And again, areas like this you'll want to like simplify by just using that shape builder to shape build across things. You'll notice that we don't use the option key so much with the shape builder tool. We're just trying to get things to be just easier for the laser cutter to cut. If you make a mistake, you can always undo. And again, we're trying to get rid of especially things like this, right? Anything that's a little that the laser cutter will have to cut, and it will fall right through the cracks, so you won't be able to get to it anyway, so it'll be gone. So again, I'm just using the shape builder tool to kind of simplify, and you can see this is much more possible, although it's still a little bit of work in this area. If you need to add things, you can always add lines in using the pencil tool. We've done this in class before. So say you want a line that goes from here to here, you can just add that in. Be careful when you use the pencil tool, Command Z, I'm going to undo that, is because you'll see that it kind of like wants to change the path of this thing that you have selected. So if you have everything selected, you'll notice that they're blue. You see that you can actually change the path on an area, but that in essence gets rid of like everything that's that path. So be careful on that. So one way is just to deselect it just by going away, making sure nothing's blue, then going to the end tool, and then just drawing a path. And at that point, nothing will happen. Okay, so we're going to just, so if you're going to make a line, then you're going to draw it across like this and try to get it very close to the existing paths. And you can just obviously use the direct selection tool and select these anchor points and move them so that they correspond to this area that you've got selected there, like that. So so that'll allow you to add some paths in into your object. Okay, the third possibility here is for us to, I'm just going to go to my selection tool here and select this image, FX, blur, and then I'm going to give it a Gaussian blur, and this blur, I'm going to put it at 10, but you can put it at whatever. This, again, what we're trying to do is lower the amount of detail in the image before image tracing, right? And then we're going to go to, again, you can always try the effects gallery and Command 0 and see now things are maybe a little bit more, let's lower this. Actually, it's worse with the effects gallery, so I have to bring certain things up. The simplicity, again, moving the sliders. And you can do something more abstract like this. Is if it's something that you want to do. I want to show you the that effect right here. Say I like this and I would love to image trace this. Again, go to Object, Rasterize, just to make sure that this image is what we're actually image tracing. And you'll notice that if you want it to be as sharp as possible like this, you go to Object, Rasterize, change your presets from 20 just to screen or medium, and when you do that, you'll see everything is still pretty sharp. Again, we'll do the image trace. We'll hit the preview button if you didn't hit the image trace here, and we're going to go to presets, 3 color, And then because 3 color is not enough in this case, we're going to go to more colors by either pulling this up to 6, 7. Change your path shapes so to make them either softer, and the corners to make things rounder. And then finally, don't forget the overlapping method, really important. And then hit expand. And you can see there's already much less work that I have to do with Shape Builder. Obviously, it's a much different image. The next step is to go to the merge tool in Pathfinder to merge all these objects, and then finally the outline tool, and then click on the stroke, make it black, change it to 1, although that's not important. That's just for you to see where you need to do a little work. And you can see that this is an area that will burn up the laser cutter for the most part. So go to Shape Builder and try to shape build all these little guys into a single thing, being careful not to get rid of lines that you want to keep. And again, just go slowly on this part and zoom in if you need to. And you can Command ++, and then the space bar, it will be your friend because it'll allow you to pan around things. And if you're not sure what happened, always zoom back out, because Command 0, by the way, because you can see that it's easy to delete things that might be important and you don't know you're deleting them when you're zoomed in so closely. And that's it for how you guys create something. So just for fun, we're going to try a different image so you can see that this works for a different image. We're going to go to File. We're just going to go through the entire process. So let's go back to Workspace, Reset Essential. So again, one last time, we're going to go to Place. I'm going to hit Cancel and deselect that so that we're on this this workspace here. And we're going to go to Place, and we're going to place a different image in. We're going to select that. Going to hit Place. We're going to change the size of it, holding the Shift key down, so that it fits in our window here. We're going to rasterize it. We're going to change it to Other 20. We're going to image trace it, and we're going to open up our panels window, and we're going to select tracing results with outline, and we're going to try 3 colors. If you don't like what you're seeing, or if something is weird, you can always stop at this point. You can see that I'll have to undo a couple times to bring it back to my image. So before I do this, effects gallery, and now I can Command +++, and this is our cutout with edge simplicity turned way up. So you can see I've got a number of levels. I can do something like that. And edge fidelity is how close it adheres to the paths. And now if I go to Image Trace, open up that window and change the preset to 6 colors, for instance, turn on my outlines, and you can see that's much more interesting, a little bit better. If you have anything that you want to change, like the resolution before you do the cutout, you can always increase the resolution. I'm going to lower my paths, lower my corners. I'm going to change the method to overlapping and expand this. Then I'm going to open up my Pathfinder window. Just click merge so that those double lines go away, and then finally the outline, change my stroke to black and change the size to 1, and then I'm going to go to my shape builder tool and clean up any little shapes that I see and try to turn this into something that is not impossible. And again, we're looking for these type of things here, these little divots. And so work on your project specifically with this technique, and when you have something ready for us to cut, that's when we'll cut stuff together. So at this point you should have everything ready for the laser cutter, but we want to clean everything up a little bit. So I'm going to use my selection tool, and holding the Shift key down, I'm going to enlarge this a bit so that it fills up the frame a little bit. And we're going to allow this overlap here, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to our rectangle tool, double click in the middle someplace, and then we're going to make our rectangle that's 7 by 7, because this is 7.5. That'll give us 1/4 of an inch around the sides. And you can see by selecting having the rectangle here, go back to my selection tool. I am going to just make sure everything is deselected but the rectangle, and then I'm going to hit the center button, and what that will do is it'll center it on our artboard. At this point, I'm going to select everything, and you can see now what we're going to do is strip off everything that touches that's on the outside of that artboard here. So again, Shape Builder, and then we zoom in, and then we hold the Option key down this time while dragging across, and that'll allow us to select these objects and get a nice clean outline. And again, if you can zoom in and use the space bar to pan around, and we're holding the Option key down this time just to get rid of everything that's on the outside of that line. Another possibility obviously is to select the objects by hand if there are too many, but in this case it's not too difficult. Oops, Command 0 to zero out and zoom in, and holding the Option key down, I'm just going across these objects here. Anyway, at that point you'll have your border completely cleaned up, and save your file, and we'll put it on a pen drive, or you'll upload it to Canvas, and we'll download it, and we'll laser cut your object together. Good luck.